These are the AirPods Pro 3. They have a new design, a more secure fit, heart rate tracking, improved sound quality, and even longer battery life. But are those reasons enough to make you want to actually upgrade? What's up, friends? I'm Brian MacDuff, aka BMac, and welcome to another video. Today, yes indeed, we are going to be going over the Apple AirPods Pro 3, Apple's best earbuds ever made. And like we just mentioned, yes, they are packing a lot of new features and upgrades, but are those new features and upgrades actually enough to justify getting a new pair? That's what we're discussing today. First things first, I do need to give a huge thank you and a shout out to Apple for actually sending out a pair of the AirPods Pro 3 for me to be able to check out, use, and enjoy. So Apple, thank you, appreciate you. But with that having been said, let's dive right into the new design of the AirPods Pro 3, because Apple redesigned these earbuds from the inside out. But what does that actually mean? One of the first things you'll probably notice if you look at the AirPods Pro 3, especially when directly next to the AirPods Pro 2, is that new design that they're offering. They are different on the outside and on the inside, with a smaller overall size and a redesigned interior. And to further improve the AirPods Pro fit in your ear, Apple actually now includes 5 different ear tip sizes to choose from with a new extra small option. With the ear tips themselves also getting now foam infusion for an even better seal and even better sound quality when they're in your ear, but especially for even better fit and feel and comfortability. Apple actually says that the redesign comes from 10,000 plus ear scans and over 100,000 research hours. And apparently Apple has aligned the ear tip of the AirPods Pro 3 for a more secure fit, especially when you're moving around. But comfort and stability aside for just a second here, the AirPods Pro are probably still my favorite earbud design to date. The stem with the intuitive pinch controls and the swipe volume control is so simple to use, so easy to use, and it just always works for me. Other pro level earbuds still rely on awkward taps or even awkward button presses, which makes the AirPods Pro themselves easily the easiest and simplest to use in my experience. The charging case itself is still basically the same. It's got a glossy white finish, it has a flip top lid, a USB-C connection on the bottom, a lanyard loop slot if you want to detach a lanyard, and a speaker on the bottom plus an LED for your various alerts. And you do also get IP57 dust and water resistance now, which technically means you should be able to submerge your AirPods into up to a meter of water. I don't necessarily recommend that, and Apple's not advertising that, but that is technically what IP57 means. So the outside and the inside of the AirPods Pro 3 is new, but what about the connectivity features? Did Apple actually upgrade connectivity, or did they just dress up the same old tech? Maybe somewhat surprisingly, the AirPods Pro 3 still only get the Apple H2 chip built in, which suggests that the sound, adaptive EQ, and ANC gains that we're getting here with the AirPods Pro 3 are actually coming from the hardware changes, not any kind of chip change, with support for the SBC and AAC audio codecs. Which is no surprise here. For those of you who know me, you know I love my high resolution Bluetooth audio codecs like LDAC, but with even the latest iPhones still not offering anything beyond AAC, no surprise to not see that here in the AirPods Pro 3. So only SBC and AAC. Arguably, the iPhone and the AirPods connection is sufficient and highly optimized with AAC that you might not even need LDAC. But point is, SBC and AAC here, you are still getting in-ear detection with autoplay and auto pause. And even though you do have that pinch and hold gesture for invoking Siri manually, you do also get hands-free Siri support just by using the sound of your voice. In terms of latency, I did test the connection between the AirPods Pro 3 and my iPhone 17 Pro Max. There's gonna be no issue there for when you're listening to music or even watching video or streaming content. But if you are a competitive video gamer on your mobile device, you're not gonna have that ideal level of latency for actual competitive gameplay if you have a lot of real-time sound. So don't be looking at the AirPods Pro 3 specifically for gaming, because that latency is going to get in the way a little bit. There is still no dedicated companion app for the AirPods, but within the iOS settings Bluetooth submenu, that is where you can still get full control over the AirPods and change anything you would want to. The case does now have a 2nd generation ultra-wideband chip built in, which is going to improve precision finding within Find My, so that your directional arrows, your distance, and even your sound emission are gonna be available from further distances away. I loved how this worked on my AirPods Pro 2, and it's even better now with the AirPods Pro 3, so I'm very excited about that. But a big addition of a feature here we have to talk about is heart rate tracking. There is a new optical sensor built into the AirPods Pro that help you lock heart rates during your workouts. And you also do have the ability of actually viewing your live heart rate data and seeing your summaries after the fact. And this is an awesome feature for anyone who likes to work out, especially if you like to work out while wearing AirPods, and if you don't already have an Apple Watch or some other fitness tracker. But if you're wondering, yes, you do have the ability of actually using the AirPods Pro 3 and your Apple Watch heart rate tracking together. Obviously, this means I'm gonna say that you probably don't need to upgrade to the AirPods Pro 3 specifically for the heart rate tracking alone, if you already have means of tracking your workouts through other measures. But if you don't already have a fitness tracker or an Apple Watch, this is an awesome feature. You're not gonna go back after this. You're gonna be wearing these for every single workout, because that heart rate tracking data is awesome to have. It really gives you further insights into how your workouts are progressing. And all these features and upgrades are nice to have, but earbuds in general ultimately live or die by one thing in particular, that being sound quality. So how do the AirPods Pro 3 sound, and do they actually outplay the sound quality of the AirPods Pro 2? As we've mentioned a few times already, there is a new interior design of the AirPods Pro 3, which is allowing for better airflow that is therefore going to transform the kind of bass response that you're hearing. What this means in layman's terms is that you're going to get deeper, more controlled, and more impactful bass on the AirPods Pro 3. You're also going to be getting Apple's next generation adaptive EQ on top of that. Those things together are delivering a wider soundstage to make things sound more expansive by default, with even more vocal clarity and especially upper frequency detail that I noticed that is giving a little bit more liveliness to the overall balance. Now this is interesting because I usually like to have full control and fine tune my EQ settings, but that's obviously not an option here with the AirPods Pro 3 since they have adaptive EQ and that's baked in. But the thing is, that's not really an issue here, because quite frankly, I love the sound quality of the AirPods Pro 3. Across multiple genres and at various volumes, the balance sits right where I generally want it to be. The bass extends pretty low and it hits hard without crowding out the mids or the highs. And then at the same time, you have mids that are present, even slightly recessed, which I actually kind of prefer, but that detail and clarity in the high end that brings you a nice kind of V formation in the EQ balance that I personally love. And speaking of spatial audio, yes, it's obviously returning here in the AirPods Pro 3. Not every song is going to sound good in spatial audio, but with the spatial audio attention to detail that Apple has here with the iPhone and of course with their AirPods, spatial audio does sound pretty darn awesome. I especially recommend it for when you're listening to movies or TV shows. I guess technically you're watching them, not listening to them. Well, you are. You're watching and listening. Use spatial audio when you're watching movies or TV shows. Thank me later. But we obviously can't skip over talking about the active noise cancellation on the AirPods Pro 3. And point blank, the ANC on the AirPods Pro 3 is probably some of the best ANC I've heard in a pair of earbuds ever. And this makes sense because Apple is actually claiming that the ANC in the AirPods Pro 3 is 2 times more powerful than the ANC performance in the AirPods Pro 2, and therefore 4 times more powerful than the ANC performance in the original AirPods Pro. This is probably the closest I've ever heard to complete silence with ANC in earbuds, no matter the environment that I'm in. Voices, wind, keyboard clicks, road sounds, wherever I am, those ambient sounds in the environment were drastically reduced, making these probably the best ANC earbuds that I've experienced thus far. And then on the flip side of that is transparency mode, which I've said for years now, but even more so now than ever before, is probably the best, I'm not even gonna say probably, it is the best transparency mode I've experienced in a pair of earbuds out of all the earbuds I've ever tested. A lot of earbuds have transparency mode or pass-through mode, whatever you wanna call it now, but they all seem to have a little bit of a digital sound to them. With the AirPods Pro 3, just like with the AirPods Pro 2, and arguably even with the original AirPods Pro, the transparency mode literally sounds transparent. You almost can't even tell that you have earbuds in. That's how amazing the transparency mode actually is. And then don't forget you also have the adaptive ANC mode, which is a fantastic option for if you want to automatically raise or lower the level of ANC being used, depending on the environmental noise around you. Speaking of which, you do also have the return of loud noise reduction in the AirPods Pro 3, which to this date is still one of my favorite features of the AirPods Pro that I'm still very impressed by. And then building on that is going to be the cherries on top, which is going to be personalized volume and conversation awareness, which is whereby the AirPods are going to automatically adjust the volume of whatever it is that you're listening to, depending on whether you're having a conversation with someone or based on the environmental sounds that are around you. And for those of you wondering what the microphone quality of the AirPods Pro 3 sounds like, this is a quick little demo for you. This is raw audio recorded directly from the AirPods Pro 3 into the voice memos app on my iPhone. So hopefully this gives you a pretty good idea of what to expect. As you could hear, it sounds pretty darn good. Easily some of the best microphone quality I've heard on a pair of earbuds, so definitely another plus for the AirPods Pro 3 there. But the best sound quality in the world, and even the strongest ANC, really doesn't matter if your batteries end up dying on you. So how long could you actually expect the AirPods Pro 3 to last for? Apple actually rates the AirPods Pro 3 as being capable of delivering up to 8 hours of playback with ANC turned on, 7.5 hours with spatial audio and head tracking turned on, 6.5 hours with heart rate sensing turned on, or up to 10 hours with transparency mode and hearing aid. The MagSafe compatible charging case is going to store an additional 2 recharges within it, for a total of up to 24 hours of listening time with ANC in the entire package. Now, a couple things to point out here. You are getting 2 additional hours of ANC listening time within the earbuds themselves, but the entire package is a slight downtick in performance. We used to have 30 hours of total listening time. Now it's only 24 hours of listening time, which I still think is plenty, and I honestly would take that trade-off to get a little bit more listening time in the earbuds themselves. So, not a big deal for me, but something to be aware of. And then you do once again have quick charging in the AirPods Pro 3 here, with the ability to actually get up to an hour of playback on just a quick 5-minute charge of the AirPods in their charging case. With the ability, by the way, to recharge via USB-C with the charging case, or since it's MagSafe compatible, via MagSafe charger. But after all that we just talked about, the design, the sound quality, the battery, all that, here are my final thoughts on the AirPods Pro 3 and whether or not those new upgrades and features actually make them worthy of an upgrade. At the end of the day, Apple really did deliver with the AirPods Pro 3. There's no denying that. The new secure fit allows them to stay comfy and secure in your ears during workouts. You have heart rate tracking, which is another useful fitness add. You're getting some of the best sound quality you could hear in a pair of earbuds, backed by the best ANC performance I've personally experienced in earbuds, with, without question, the best transparency mode that I've ever experienced in earbuds. All topped off with longer battery life in the earbuds themselves for even longer listening sessions between charges. But is all that enough to actually warrant an upgrade? That's the tricky part. The AirPods Pro 2 are still an excellent pair of earbuds in their own right. And yes, the Pro 3s do sound better, the ANC is stronger, but not everyone needs that heart rate tracking, and the other upgrades may seem kind of more like refinements than must-haves when you compare the two. So basically, if you're coming from the AirPods Pro 2, you're definitely not gonna be disappointed. You will love the AirPods Pro 3, but the upgrade might not feel as massive as if you're coming from the original AirPods Pro, or even if you've never owned a pair of AirPods before. The AirPods Pro 3 are gonna probably blow your mind, and they're definitely a clear choice of earbuds that you should consider. I love these. As always, for the latest deals, prices, promos, and information for the AirPods Pro 3, you can of course always head to my affiliate link, bmac.link/AirPods Pro 3, or of course, as always, there will be clickable links in the video description box and in the comment section below, so check those out. So with that having been said, it is time for me to go get my workout in. I'm gonna do so with some heart rate tracking on these bad boys, sync up the two together. I'm ready. I will see you guys in my next video.